How did I get my job? I was going through family violence situation, had all that happening in the background. But one day I decided that I wanted to do an office job. So I did put myself in a course, and I got a student loan out, and I did a certificate called Advanced Certificate in Business Administration. It was NZQA. And so that's how I got my foot in the door into a job, office job. And from there, I got a fixed contract. And from there, I got a permanent contract. I was working for the government at this time in different sectors. So I had already had court experiences before I actually got my job in the courts. I was working for the, it was called Court Services Team. When I was doing, that's the first time I actually did courts. But more on the other side, at that time, I was doing courts working for the sectors involving defendants and offenders. So I was working for the court servicing team, and then I got myself a permanent job working, running the operational of a centre. So I did the full administration office running of the actual centre, and a PA to my manager at the time. So I was doing this job for quite a while, and then circumstance changed. My private life was going through, the family violence situation, and I moved to another state, and during this period of time, I knew I needed a job to get closer to home. I recall actually applying for my job because I saw an advertisement in the Herald at this time, and I applied for it for a position in the family jurisdiction. Whereas back in those days, you just send your CV, put your CV together, and then you send it, and then you just wait and see if you get shortlisted or make it through for the actual interview. So the disadvantage I have found with those two different, the massive changes that have taken place, is that if your privacy is already gone, this new system that we're subject to right now, we are, you are disadvantaged because they already know who you are, and it's so easy to be blacklisted for any reason. My job that I got that I was doing at the time was actually a permanent job before I actually got the job. It was called Department of Courts back then. So I went through a panel interview. I got shortlisted and I made it through to the panel interview. So I went to this interview, and the interview itself, I felt, really good about it. Unfortunately, I didn't get it. During this time, behind the scenes, I'd just moved states. I had all the responsibility of being a single parent, and had 3 children under my care at this time. And so I was, juggling private life, full-time job, and then trying to find a new job, moved into a new house. At this time, I was living with my parents until I actually got a house just for me and my children. And so from there, I was actually traveling back and forth to my permanent job that I had at the time. I was traveling back and forth, and um, no, I was trying to find a job at the same time. So I had several other interviews, and I was basically really, really burnt out. So when I got the phone call from the manager to let me know about the outcome of the interview, he told me that I just missed out by 5 points, but he was pretty impressed with my interview. At that time, there were a lot of other jobs going within the courts, and he asked my permission if he could recommend my CV. And I thought he was just being nice, but I was like really discouraged, and I'd actually made up my mind that I was going to put looking for another full-time job on hold because I was really burnt out. I was stressed. I had so much to handle at that time. But to my surprise, I got a phone call from the manager, and but it was a female manager, and she told me that no, we had a few words, and she asked me to come in for a job interview. So of course I was, I was like, oh wow, it is true. So I went for the actual interview, and I got the job. The kind of job I did back then. The position I was offered was deputy registrar, working for the Department of Courts in the jury trial depositions. So that's the mindset, and that's the training that I did in those days. And but there was two of us who actually started in this exactly same role at the time, and he had a different background. He came from a traveling consultant, and we both started exactly the same job on the same day. And the job involved case managing, taking courts. There was all sorts of stuff that involved. And the deputy registrar powers involved issuing warrants, all that kind of legal stuff behind it, behind the authority of having a deputy registrar powers. But that is the kind of mindset and training that I was brought up in from that job. Like, it didn't hit me hard how serious the job was until I actually went through the training. But I just wanted to explain how I got my job within the actual courts before they actually merged to a different name, but it was the same job. But I had to change jobs and look for something closer to home because, family prioritizing, putting family first. The situation that I was in, I had to do what was more important at the time. But anyway, that is how I got my role within the courts, and I did that for 13 and a half years. But in total, I did the courts or the government for roughly 17 and a half years experience. my qualifications as far as the administration, advanced certificate in business administration, I actually got a student loan out, and so I paid my way through that, doing that course, and then spent the next couple of years working full-time and paying it off. But why this information is relevant is that is where I learned and was taught about privacy breaches from people within fiduciary duties. They were treated really serious. They were never taken as a joke. If somebody operated outside their scope, it was a serious issue. They were called public servants back then. And that was the kind of mindset I had. Someone with my circumstance, you really don't have very much option as far as getting help or intervention other than using the laws. So that is how I got the job. So as far as the church was concerned, they were my private life and my personal space. And at that time, I believe I did what I did. I acted according to what I could do at the time to stop the breaches from accumulating or getting worse. Unfortunately, as time went on, it got worse. Just a disclaimer, this case entails several perpetrators. So this clip is not actually pointing the finger to one particular person, but it is a cyberbullying case. So cyberbullying entails two or more. I'm dealing with when the incidents took place within my work environment at the time. So I just wanted to clarify that this case entails more than one perpetrator, but I'm just going to be focusing on the incidents that actually occurred when it first took place within my work environment.